If you're a user of Janomes MBX version 5 and you're having problems seeing what's on your screen, chances are you are using a laptop. Now, I'm using a desktop tower and a fairly large monitor. Now, there are a couple of things that you can do. There are a couple of things you must do. And I'm going to go to Software Settings, User Interface Settings, Software Settings, Screen Calibration. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, you click on Screen Calibration and this little box pops up. So what is screen calibration? Well, because the manufacturers now have so many different screen sizes, you have to let the program know the size of your screen. It doesn't want you to type in that you're using a 15-inch or a 17-inch. It's not interested in that size. What it wants you to do is measure from this side to this side with a plastic ruler, preferably in metric, and enter the result in here. Then it wants you to measure the height from there up to there, and you measure that height in there, and then you tell it OK. Now, to double check, I use a hoop, and let me just first of all put this onto 100%. Thank you. 140 by 200, and I take it from the MC 10000 version 3 or higher. And I use my plastic ruler using metric, and I measure from that red line to that red line, and it should measure exactly 14 centimeters. Then I take a measurement from this red line down to this horizontal center line, and that should measure exactly 10 centimeters. If it doesn't, then it means I haven't got my measurements right in the calibration box. Now, the program needs to know, because I've already worked out the size of the box. It knows how many. When I said it's already worked out the size of the box, what it knows is that you've got n number of pixels, and it knows how many pixels there are in a millimeter. So that's why you have to enter the measurements, because then it goes, so in that case I really need to display this screen a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. And I'm talking now about the contents. Can't make the screen any bigger. You can only display the contents at the correct size. Okay, software settings again. User interface. Under the General tab, you have got Show Large Icons. Click on it. And I want you to look at these icons when I tell this OK. See how they grew? Now, I have to have large icons. My eyesight's very bad. And my particular monitor has got a very high resolution, and I've had to drop the resolution of my screen in order to be able to see them at this size. Okay, now the next bit. If you're on a laptop and you've got a 15-inch or a 17-inch screen, then you have my sympathy. I had cause to use a 17-inch laptop a few months ago, and I couldn't find half my toolbars. They had become truncated, which meant bits like reshape were under select. The undo and redo was covered up by another toolbar. So one of the things you can do is you go to Window, Toolbars. You don't need machine status on unless you're using a multi-needle machine. The Janomes MBX V5, I think it is. You want select, you want standard, you want status. I like travel on. There we go. I like view. And I like my zoom. But if you're using your center scroll button, you don't need zoom. View, I use that the whole time. Quite apart from anything else, it's got a toolbar in it that I want. So, most of these you need. Okay, then you see Dockers. Dockers are these, and they live over here. Now, if you've got your resequence bar open, it takes up a lot of room. I right click into the empty area, and I have Object Properties open. I use my Object Properties and my toolboxes together, but of course it takes up a lot of room. By the time I had got everything open that I'm used to working with open, I only had a little workspace over here. It was about 4 inches. I don't think actually it was even 4 inches. It was minuscule. And it was so bad, I just closed the laptop, and for a week in the evenings, because I was staying with friends, when they watched TV, I read a book. So you can narrow these down. You hover your mouse until you get the double-headed arrow, and you can make that narrower. And then you have to use the slide bars. So that opens you up a bit more space. You can narrow this one down. Again, hover until you get the double-headed arrow. Move it over. Do you really need to be able to read the whole word? And you've got a bit more room for your screen. Now, if you are using a laptop, you can actually set up a second monitor, run it through a different monitor. So if you're working at home and you've got room for another monitor, buy yourself a reasonably sized monitor and connect it up. Give yourself a bit of room so you can see the program. And some of you may be sitting there saying, oh, it's all right for her, she's got big monitor, blah blah blah. Well, yes, I have. And if I wanted to enjoy my software, I needed a big monitor. It's a big program. Okay, so that's calibrating the screen, which you need to do, double checking it's correct by using the plastic ruler that you use to measure your calibration box, and taking the measurement from the red bounding box inside the hoop, because that's your stitch area, and that measures exactly 14 centimeters wide by 20 centimeters tall. You can close these up a bit. You can elect to lose a couple of toolbars if you want. I actually like my toolbars all displayed because I use them. Oh, excuse me. It's very late for me. You can redock the resequence bar. That will give you a bit of space. You can close the object details. You can recall it by simply right-clicking on the screen and tell it open up. So that gets you a bit more real estate on your screen. Now, I think actually that's it. I'm sitting here yawning my head off, and I think it's time for my bed.